Alright, so just going to look at this floor duct. So it says it's made of 1.2mm stainless steel and dimensions are outside, internal radius should be 1.2. So what I'm going to do as a start for this one is just to try and find this plane. I am going to do a side view of it. And I'll just draw the bottom spigot, well, a side view of the bottom spigot there. So draw a line across. I'll go back and just change that to construction, and I will vertically constrain it to the origin. Just checking the size here, we've got a 250 OD spigot down the bottom, so I'll dimension this one at 250. Right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just draw a line, make sure it's construction, draw it just up because I want something to dimension off. And if you have a look here, if we're looking at the center, the way this is drawn, that should be the center. So got a line straight up, and then if you draw a 49-degree angle to the center of this bit, we've got that square there. So let's draw a 49-degree line, and then we'll use some of those other dimensions to figure out exactly where it ends. So I've just randomly drawn a line out there. I'm going to go and do 49 degrees like the drawing. And if we have a look, we've got this line now and that line. So I'm starting this drawing from this joint here. So I'm not doing it right from the bottom, I'm doing it from that joint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add those two together and then minus 65. So 129 plus 75. And then I'll minus 65 off it. So I've got a height of 139 is where this line is parallel to that one. So I'll go back to Inventor here and I'll just draw a line across. Make sure it's horizontal. And we had a dimension of 139, so let's go 139. Oh, actually, I'll back off a little bit. I will draw a line, but I won't attach it to the other one. I'll see what we end up with. So, draw a line up there, and go 139, and I'll just move that over top of the other one. And we'll have a look at the bottom line. We've got 129 minus 65. So we've got 64, that's from the bottom of this part to that plane there. So let's draw a line at 64 and dimension that 64 off there. So now we know where these are starting. Now what I've got to do is we've got to figure out where it crosses over here. So let's have a quick look at the drawing. It's got 49 degrees out that way, and then there's a line that crosses over this way. So we need a perpendicular line, and then we need it to cross over these 2 points. So let's just draw a line perpendicular. So we'll just draw it randomly there, and I'll put a constraint perpendicular to that, and not give it any particular length. So what I'm going to do, also, I see that hasn't quite constrained there, so we'll do that point to wherever the center of this is, like that. Now I can drag this down, and you can see where it's crossing over the top there. So what we want to do, stretch this right out, this one right out. So we've got a rough idea. So we know the center of it is, the center of this needs to be the center of these two. So let's just do a line in between those two. And all I'll do here is I'll do a dimension, that one to that one, 75. We'll accept it, even though it says it's over dimension. And then I'll just do a dimension here to here. And I'll say that equals that dimension, which is 75, divided by 2. Now, what you can see here is we want this point to line up with this line. So we need to do a horizontal constraint. Just back off out of what I was in. That point to this line. And there you have it. We have the point where the square comes off. And what we want to do as well is just trim it, just tidy it up. So we'll go trim this, and trim that, trim. We also have been given the dimensions of these lines here, so I'll just even them up. So that's going to be the end of the spigot. It's going to be those 2 points there. So we've got 105. So what I'll do is I'll go back into Inventor and I'll dimension that at 105. And I'm just going to draw a line between the 2 points, there to there. So now I can do one plane off there, one plane off there, and this plane already exists because it's an origin plane. So it's a bit of a tricky one to figure out where exactly the spigot comes off. A lot of these drawings are quite tricky, to be fair. So let's do some planes. So plane, angle to plane around the edge. Let's do this one for the end of the spigot. $90, yep. So that's for the end of the spigot there. We'll do the same thing again. There's the edge. And here's the plane. So we've got one for that bit. And we don't need to do one because it's an origin plane there. So what might help us here is if we put a few points on here. So I'll put a point there and a point here, and I'll even put a couple points here just to, in case I need them. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn, no I won't actually, I'll just do it like this. It might be a bit confusing, but bear with me. So go start sketch on this plane. And I'm just going to rotate it a little bit so I can see what I'm looking at. And I'm going to project that point and that point. Sorry, and that point there. Now I'll do a rectangle. Just going to do it off the side here. And depending on what view, how it's orientated, I'll try horizontal and see how it goes. So horizontal to the top. Nope, so we need to go vertical. And same with this one to that point there. Right, so that should give us the height. They've given us a height of 75. So let's just double check. I'm pretty sure it's going to be right by the way we've done it. 75, so we don't need to put that there. So I'll press escape. And what I'll do here as well is I'll centralize it. So I'll grab the center of that line and I'll center it up that one. I'll double check the drawing. How wide is it? 70. Alright then, let's dimension that bit 70. Alright, so that's one end of the square bit. And let's do the other end of it. So I'm going to turn that one off just to make it easier to see. And now I'm going to draw the other end of the square bit. So I'll start a sketch on this. What I might do is right click and go slice graphics. Sometimes that gets rid of some things that are in your way, but it hasn't, so that's fine. Same thing again, I'll do a rectangle. I do have a center point here, so I'll use that. And I'll go like this. Then I'll put a constraint to the point, so that will make it the right height. And again 70 wide, so 70. And finish that one up. Let's go back to the home view here and have a look. So that's that face of that where it starts to transition. So let's turn this off. Now I'll draw the bottom diameter here. So I'm going to start a sketch on the bottom plane, and it was just a 250 diameter circle. Enter that in there. Right, so we got those three faces. Now I'm just going to do one more face just for the other side of that spigot. So it's 65 down from that joint. So that's what we'll do. We'll do 65. So I'll go plane, offset from plane, offset from that one, and I'll go minus 65. Start a sketch on that one, and just type in 250. So there we have all the faces of it. So the next thing we want to do is just set the metal thickness once we tidy this up a little bit. And I'm going to put a point over here because I'm going to need it later. Actually, I'll put it down here. And point there, that seems good. So, alright. Sheet metal defaults. Untick the thickness and rule. And we've got a 1.2mm thick piece here. And what I can do here as well is I can go to File, Properties, and I can change this material to stainless. It'll just make it look a little bit shinier. It doesn't actually do anything. It also helps calculate the weight a bit more correctly, but no major difference really. So now we've got that, I'm going to save this bit as the skeleton of that bit. So we're talking about a floor duct here. And let's start with the real easy bit, eh? So we'll go the spigot. And I'll do as a die formed, so it's a nice round thing. And I'll make sure it's inside the line because it's outside dimensions we've got. Okay. Now I'll just put a rip point in it so we can flatten it out. And I'm just going to go 0.1 as I always do. Right, so we've got the spigot. So let's turn off the things we're not using. I believe that's almost all of it. One more point there. Go to create a flat pattern. There we go, basic flat pattern anyway. And we will save that as the bottom spigot. Save. So I'm going to close out of that and open the skeleton again. And this time we'll do the transition. So lifted flange here to here. And there we go, have a nice looking squared around. Yep, I'm quite happy with the way it's doing that. The only thing I'll just check is that it's going internally, like that. And that's really good, so I'm quite happy with that. What I'm going to do here though is I'm going to just turn off a few things because I don't need them. I'm going to keep that one on because I need that one. I don't need any of these other ones. And what would probably be a good idea on this one is you would have a half pattern realistically. So I'd do two symmetrical ones, so I divide it up this way. So that's what I'll do. I'll do a rip about that face and down that side of 0.1, and same on the other side, and hopefully it works out well for us there. Rip this face, same again, 0.1. Apply that, close out, and now I'm just going to turn off all these work points here so I don't have to look at them anymore. And what we should have, if we go to create flat pattern, is a nice half pattern. So there's your half pattern, and obviously the next one, the other one's going to be a mirror of that one. So we'll save that as the transition. Close out of that and go back to the skeleton again. Now what I'm going to do here is there's a lot of things going on I don't need for this one. So I don't need this. I don't need this bottom one. This one here. I don't need this. And I don't even think I'm going to use any of these work points here. Right, so actually we'll turn that sketch off too, I don't need that one. Same again, lofted flange, this face to this face. Just check it's going internally. Now, saying about the bend radius, it's come up 1.2 millimeters on its own, so I don't generally change this because it's usually pretty good. If you're being real fussy, you can change it. I wouldn't worry about it personally, unless you've got, machines that are doing a specific radius. You'd set it up appropriately for that. So looking at this bit here, obvious place to have a joint would be in one of these edges here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go rip that point and that point, and I'll just do that. So it still comes around a bit of a curve, which is fine. It's not going to affect the pattern at all. Close out of that and create a flat pattern. So there's the pattern for it. Go to folded part. Fine. So we'll call this the square spigot. Alright, so there's one more thing we have to make for this. So I'm not going to use the skeleton file to do it because it's more hassle than it's worth. All we need to do is just draw this flange. So we've got a 300 OD and 250 OD. So I'm going to assume that it goes all the way just to that face actually. I'm going to assume we're going to weld around the inside. So I'll do it 250 to 300 and I'll put these holes in it as well. So I'll just do a new I'll do sheet metal, start a sketch on any of these planes, circle, if I just have a double check, 300 OD, so let's go 300. And do another one at 250. And we've got some holes to put in, so I'll just line it up with here, strain it vertically, not what I wanted. I'll go horizontal. You can see the orientation's around the wrong way, so horizontal, dimension this was a 270 PCD, so that's 135. Let's have another look. And these are 6.5 millimeter holes, so let's dimension that at 6.5. And there are 12 of them. So if we go back to Inventor and we do a circular pattern of that circle around this point, and we say there are 12. There we go, we've got our 12 holes. Go finish sketch, zoom out a bit, and I'll change the sheet metal default to, I believe it's 5 millimeters, but I'll have another check. 5 millimeters thick, there we go. And all I need to do now is create a face on that one. So just grab that and apply. Also, if we want to keep it consistent, I'll just change the properties to stainless steel. So it just made it a tiny bit shinier. And I'll just save this as the flange. Alright, so I'll close out of that. Now join every bit together. Do a new assembly file. I'm going to place, the bottom spigot first. Just randomly there. Press escape. And change the view so I can see the edges. Now, open up the origin points and go to assemble, constrain, make sure you have it on flush. Let's go YZ to YZ, XZ to XZ, XY to XY. Now we're constrained in the assembly space, so I shouldn't be able to move it, which I can't. Next thing I'm going to do is place the transition part. I'll just chuck that there and expand the origin points of it. Go constrain, flush again, YZ, YZ, XZ, XZ, XY, XY. And now I'll close that, minimize this bit, place the square spigot, and just dump it somewhere around there, and constrain the origins of this one. So there is other ways you can do this. You could constrain it to surfaces and things. This way you just know it's going to go to the right place. Just using the using the sort of original origin It's just a bit easier to do it once you get the hang of it. Now, last thing we've got to do is place the flange. I'll chuck that there. I'm just going to constrain it with a mate, so mating that surface to that surface. Then I'll do this axis to this axis, and I'll just rotate it around to where I want it. And if I look at the drawing, the hole sort of lines up with the front there, so I'm just going to turn the origin of this one on. Well, I'm going to click on it, constrain that through that hole, and that, and there we go. So now it all lines up. Now you can just collapse everything to tidy it up, have a quick look. Yep, looks pretty good. And let's just fix up the home view because it's not really how I want to see it. I'm going to turn that around a little bit. And the way they've drawn it is facing a bit like this. So now I'll right click there and set current view as home, fit to view. So it'll always open up and come back to this view. Just make sure you save it. And this is the floor duct. And here we go, done.